Hello, everyone.
Well, good evening and welcome APLGO community. My name's Casey Conrad and I am going to be hosting this month's science call with the one, the only, our beloved Mary Esther Gilbert. And this month we are going to be focusing on the Happy Kit. Now, if you do not know who Mary Esther Gilbert is, she is the one and only expert in our community who has literally written the book on all of the botanicals and ingredients. And I hope that before the end of the webinar, she will point you to the right place where you can get that if you don't already have a copy of that. So, Mary Esther, welcome to another Behind the Science call.
Well, thank you so much. I am so happy to be here with you, Stacy. It's always such a pleasure to do these with everybody.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, let's jump right in if you don't mind, because we have a big kit to be talking about this evening, which is the Happy Kit. And I think from a formulation standpoint, a good place to start would be why did APLGO create the Happy Kit? Meaning what problems does the Happy Kit help to solve in our hectic, crazy world today?
That's such a good question. Let's get started on this. Can everybody see that? Should be able to.
We can.
Okay, now the first question always seems to take a lot longer and everything else seems to fall in place. So I love this first question of yours. So let's look into how APL goes reasoning in putting together this drop is, first of all, in answer to your question. So the drop formulators, they understood how critical all of these nutrient factors are for bringing the body back toward optimal, proper functioning at the cell level. And these have a direct impact on one's personal perspectives, our moods, our cognitive thinking. They all have a profound influence on our level of happiness. So a person's perception about their lives, the world, about themselves, their self-esteem, and others, how they perceive others, it's always highly impacted by their own biochemical state of health. So what's going on inside the body determines how you view your own world. So the happiness or the ability to resolve stress, you know, logically and calmly, being able to look at something and not panic, things like that. So that's what I call a healthful way to resolve stress. So it can actually be rooted in an optimally nourished, smooth running body system. Every single body system communicating, nothing in response to the inflammatory reactions that happen when a person has stress. So all of that is conducive to an elevated person's outlook. So the
Hmm.
key is to stay nourished so that you have an elevated outlook on life. So there's many factors that can run interference with this biochemistry. Chronic nutrient deficiencies, chemical, synthetic pollutants, overloading on stress responses. All of these are inflammatory reactions and the body's trying to deal with something. So they're going to cause all of these system disruptions. So if this happens over a long period of time, then it's going to lead to a degenerative health condition or multiple conditions. So you want to make sure you avoid nutrient deficient conditions and chronic states of stress. Those are the real fundamental factors that impact how the body regulates itself. So then you've got daily responses to your environment and how your own thoughts may produce physical stress reactions. So this involves a complex cascade of interactions of hormones, brain nerve communications, and the immune system. So other systems are going by what these main systems are doing. So when one is chronically undernourished, and that's at the microcell level, it can take its toll, on the body's constant effort to bring itself back toward its optimal state of calm and equilibrium or biochemical balance. So these nutrient deficiencies, especially, over time, a week, 2 weeks, months, a year, all of that can start deteriorating the body literally, physically. So, that means also lowered mental, psychological, and physical functioning. So if you're trying to go back to the gym or go for your walks, and just try to stay more physically strong, you're not going to be able to. So the dropout rate for fitness goals is extremely high because people don't understand that they need to constantly replenish their body with all of these essential nutrients.
That's such a good point, Mary Esther. I was having a conversation with somebody today and literally talking about that, where, they were talking about their friend wanting to motivate them to get back to the gym. And I said, well, the problem is this person is so stressed and depressed that, a workout is the last thing that they're thinking about. They might mentally know that they should be doing it, but they literally just can't seem to get themselves off the couch to do it. So we know that
Yeah.
that mood is such a big influencer. Now, I know a lot of people will ask me, especially this month with this kit that we had, they'll say, well, why don't I just buy Happy? But the Happy kit has 5 different products in it. So without going into the weeds of every single ingredient of every single one of those products, why the combination and how do they complement each other?
This is such a fantastic question. Are you guys ready for this? Okay. I love this question. So, right. Each botanical has a vast array of different phytochemical complexes. See, we don't see all this because it's happening at the subatomic, micro, submicro level, right? And that's the size that we need to enter our tiny microscopic cells. That information needs to enter our cell membranes and do their work to keep us alive and thriving and do all the things that our microcells do, right? So we have to realize that even one botanical in one of these lozenges is going to do a lot. So if we were to eat a food, like say a pear or a banana or something else, right? If we were to eat one of those foods, we would get the benefit, the nutritional benefit of that particular food. But if we were to eat all of the foods that are in all of these drops, we would be overwhelmed. The system would be overwhelmed with too much fiber, too much this, that, and the other. But so when we have the genetic code of these plants, then our genetic code itself says, okay, this is already done for me. I don't have to bother with digesting and breaking things down so that I can use it at this level where it needs it, right? To produce the energy we need. So there's a huge array of phytochemical nutrient complexes in every single botanical, and they have all these diverse actions that occur at that microcellular level. And all together, though, they create this powerful synergy that addresses the needs of our trillions of cellular actions. So we've got about 30 trillion cells, and every one of those cells are performing literally billions or sometimes trillions of biochemical reactions every second. So it takes a lot of energy to keep us alive and thriving and going. Okay,
Mm.
so the body's always going to need something. And so when you have all of these nutrients all together at once, the body's going to have a field day. Okay, I'll distribute these nutrients to that system, this particular action going on right now. That'll nip it in the bud. I mean, the body is so busy using these nutrients, it's never going to be a waste. And the way they act, if they're redundant from one drop to another, that doesn't matter because they're interacting and creating new synergies with the other drops, the other botanicals.
Mm.
So they're all working together. I just went off script, but this is, I can't help it. I'm so
Okay.
excited about this. But yeah, basically that's what I said here. But yeah, so, when you look at all these different systems at the macro level, we don't even see inside our bodies, but, science has been able to figure out what these organs do. So the immune system, look at all of the organs that are responsible for producing our white blood cells. So there's different types of white blood cells that are protecting the body and working with this glandular endocrine system that puts out all the different hormones, thousands of hormones that monitor the system. So all of these organs are producing various types of hormones. And then they're communicating with the brain and the spinal cord nerve network. And you can see here how all of these different nerves connect to different areas of the body. So it's not just the brain by itself, it's all of these connections that are communicating to all of these systems. Now, everything that we're talking about tonight is how we can uplift our moods, our perceptions, our intelligence, our cognitive thinking, our ways of being able to solve problems and making us feel, feelings of well-being, feeling happier, feeling more up. Cardiovascular system, that's very important too. So our if it weren't for our blood vessels delivering oxygenation and nutrients to every single, farthest corners of our tiny, tiny capillaries of every single cell, then we would not be able to function either. So we need to be well nourished so that we can nourish the hormonal system, particularly because that's the one that puts out the hormones that make us feel good or bad. So, in response to all these inflammatory reactions, the body's constantly busy reacting to everything just to calm it back down. We can go through a fear event or a very stressful event, injury or something mental and psychological or emotional, and the body works as fast as it can, especially when there's nutrients in the system consistently, daily. It'll return itself back to homeostasis, do the healing fast, and that includes, our moods. So we're physiological and psychological and biochemical as well.
It's interesting, Mary Esther Gilbert. I went to a seminar once with it was an outdoor seminar with a forager, and he said something that you just triggered in my mind. This was years ago, and something that really supports what you just said. He said that scientific studies have shown that if you get 200 different plants compounds in your body annually, you're something like 100 times more likely to not get sick. And yet, when we look at ourselves regionally and from a personal perspective, most of us eat the same things all the time. And there's really almost no way that you're going to get that vast amount of nutrients unless you have something like an APLGO product that can support that. That's my opinion. You might concur.
Oh, I totally concur. That is so accurate. That is so true.
Mm, interesting.
Yeah.
So you've discussed some of the body systems that the Happy Kit helps to support. What about things like, the nervous system? You mentioned about the hormonal, but obviously the nervous system has a huge impact on people's mood. Maybe just dive a little bit into that.
Yeah. Okay. So our nerve network is always detecting, and this is an electrical network. So if you're not taking in electrically charged foods, then this network is going to start deteriorating because it has to dip into our live tissues in order to build that kind of electrical potential. But it's going to be a net loss, right? If you have to dip
Mm,
into your own body tissues in order to spark a chemical reaction, then eventually, if you don't nourish yourself with electrically charged foods, which the drops are the only supplement in the world that have this electrical charge. Okay, so when we consume foods that have these electrical charges, then it perpetuates our own electrical charge. That's the fundamental reason we're still alive. We absorb sunlight. Our cells absorb that energy from the sun, and it sparks the biochemical reactions of the enzymes and all of these biophotons as electrically charged light units of light in our bodies that keep us going. So the brain and the spinal cord nerve network is the key to that. Without that spark, we cannot keep going. So people
mm.
who are very sick, they have lower electricity in their body. That doesn't mean you should, plug your finger into a socket. That's not the same thing. Do not do that. We have to
Voltage
take it
from an
in the
internal perspective, right? The voltage of the body, the energy of the body, the mitochondria and the ATP.
Yes, yes, and that's what plants do for us. They perpetuate that energy production cycle. Our protein sources or animal, derived sources, they do a completely different thing in the body. They repair and they help our cells and maintain our DNA, integrity of the DNA. So we need protein. Our body is producing trillions of proteins every single day, enzymes, hormones, all these things that we're talking about tonight are made out of protein. So we definitely need, the animal kingdom for that. But the plant kingdom, especially if it's electrically charged, enzyme active, light energy frequency active, that is what keeps us going.
Mm, yeah.
And Casey, I wanted to, I know,
Ooh, I love your
I did not,
charts.
I know, right? So these are the systems that we've been talking about: the immune system, the endocrine hormonal system, the brain nervous system, and the blood vessels, right? And I also
Mm,
threw in detoxification because we have to get rid of all of the pollutants that we can't help absorbing, no matter how much we try, because they disrupt all these systems and they affect the moods. They cause depression. They cause all kinds of learning disorders. I mean, the science is there. The science is very clear on that. So I just wanted to put a lot of X's on here. Now, this demonstrates something, though, which is on point. So as you can see, all of the things that all of these botanicals do, they are, listed under
wow.
all of these systems. Now, is it redundant? No, because like I said earlier, you've got a huge array of biochemical complexes working together, both in synergy, and then when you combine different drops together, you've got a massive amounts. You're like multiplying it, exponentially, right? So all of these wonderful interactions that your
Mm,
body loves, it's going to find a way to restore and recover itself at the cell level. You're giving it the power to do that. Your body's always searching for the right molecules, the right combinations of molecules. And, you can give it something very fundamental, or you can give it something very, very complex like this, which our DNA can read easily and understand very quickly.
that's such a good point. And I mean, look at that. Those are each of the individual drops in the kit. I mean, that could be, you know, when you think about, someone that might say, "Oh, I'm taking, turmeric for, you know, brain support," or "I'm taking, XYZ for, my nervous system." Uh,
Yeah.
and then you compare that individual supplement with an APLGO. I mean, there really is, I know we're biased, but they're literally, you can't even compare them to one another.
No, you can't. There's too many phytonutrient compounds, and you can't just take one food and say, "Okay, I'm good." That food is wonderful, but it's not the be all and end all. And that a lot
Mm,
of supplement companies, they latch on to the science of one particular plant or even an individual nutrient in a plant, and they market the heck out of it. And the
mhm.
poor, unsuspecting, naive public doesn't know better. So they're spending $200 on a 90-day capsule, and they're not getting the full benefit of all of these different phytonutrients that we can have in one, set of drops.
Mm. So I had someone come into my wellness center the other day, and it was interesting. Highly educated individual, okay? Um, Loved the concept behind the drops, had some digestive issues, so the fact that mucosally delivered was super, like, high on her checklist. And yet she said to me, because I was promoting this particular kit, she said, "Well, that's a lot of drops, and that seems like an awful lot." Uh, if you were defending that, and you were to say there were a handful of things here that were going to really be imperative, aside from the concept that we talked about, are there any particular combinations when you as the science person step back and look at this, are there any particular combinations within these drops that are really driving the, let's call it, the happy result?
Wow. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. Was that asking the next question? Because okay,
Well,
yeah, there's
it was, but if you've got more to talk about on this other one, I mean, we could go down the
yeah.
rabbit hole, deep
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, we have a little bit more time. Let me just throw this in for the next couple of minutes, and then I
Sure.
can, go on to what you just said because I love the question. So I wanted to give people a little bit more of an idea of the many different things that each botanical and every single drop does. And people can read this. They can download the PDF off the holisticchoices.com/APL webpage for APLGO associates. Okay. But, if you just skim this really quickly, I mean, it covers the immune system, it covers all these different systems, right? The nerves, and as you go down and you scroll and you see all these different botanicals,
Mm,
you see a smattering of what these botanicals do. Now, this relates to what makes a person happier. So I pulled out that stuff out of my book
mm,
and just, put it in nice little short paragraphs. But when you look at the book, you realize that these botanicals, they do a lot more. So there's just not enough time and not enough space right now for this column, and it would not be quite. I mean, sometimes you've got botanicals, all of them actually, they do different things so much more than just the systems we're talking about. And the scientists have found so many different disease conditions that these phytochemical compounds in these botanicals do in the body. So I just kind of summarized just the happy. I didn't do all of them, just to give people an idea of what these plants are capable of doing in the body. Okay, so now your question. So um, we're talking about how these biochemicals act on our DNA. Basically, it comes down to how our DNA interprets stuff. The DNA is the genetic code that just reads everything and deciphers everything and decides what to do with everything. If it weren't for our smart DNA, we'd be pretty stupid, So when we are highly nourished, then our DNA says, great, now I can balance the hormones. Now I can help this person perceive things better, to bring them to this higher vibrational frequency that's associated with good health. Now, these are in the field of physics. There's a doctor called Fritz Albert Popp. He's been around for decades, and he is the one who discovered that our biochemical reactions affect our moods, or our moods are determined by these biochemical reactions. So he's talking about vibrational frequency energies.
mm.
And so he's got, this whole, I mean, he's world renowned, and I've been following him for decades, and he's still alive and well and kicking. Apparently he's doing something right. I think he is. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, this is what we're talking about here. So see, the botanical kit has botanicals that possess these huge array of phytochemical nutrient complexes, phytonutrients, chemicals, whatever you want to call them, that have been shown to help the body regulate all of its actions to maintain this optimal biochemical balance. So your body's always trying to go back toward normal, optimal functioning. Okay. So just to reiterate, I love this question because it kind of helps me summarize everything for everybody. So the brain and nervous system, right? You get rational thinking, cognition, memory, learning, and also just attenuates all these inflammatory stress reactions, chronic stress, right? Urgent or emergency situations. So we can react in emergency situation and save a life even. I mean, if you can think fast and think clearly and make a logical, intelligent
Mm.
choice to help someone who's in trouble or injured, say a terrible accident, if you are there, this reminds me of once I was driving home from Southern California back to Northern California where I used to live, and I was on this freeway, and it was it had been snowing at the higher elevation, but it was melting. And so we had these little tiny balls on the road that were like, slippery. What do they call those little tiny silver balls that are just really, really slippery if you step on them? I
Yeah,
forget what they're called.
black ice, yep.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was very, very slippery, and cars were slipping and sliding and careening everywhere, right? And it was a terrible thing. So I pulled over. I thought that's going to be me if I don't pull over. I just pulled right over, and everyone was in a panic. No one was calling 911, and I was, asking all these people, "Did you guys call 911? Here, sit in my car and sit by the heater." One guy was in shorts and a tank top, in the snow. So I said, "Sit in my car. You'll get warm. Call your family." So, I was just trying to keep calm. And I think I attribute that for just being very, very highly nourished, being able
Mm.
to respond, right? So that's what happens. Your immune system and your not your immune system, your nervous system just doesn't go into this panic, right?
Mm.
So your body doesn't know the difference between something like that or a coworker who has insulted your intelligence or whatever, offended you in some way, or just has been obnoxious to someone. So, I mean, that kind of stress, if it's constant, is going to have your body react the same way. Stress response, inflammatory panic responses, right? Fight or flight kind of thing. It's very exhausting and very wearing. So you have more calm responses to stress, better problem solving, rising to mental and physical challenges. So that's what the brain and nervous system is. If it's highly nourished, it can keep you, just on an even keel. And then,
That's interesting. I just a comment there because I have never really thought about that before, but when you reflect back onto somebody who is, let's just say they're not happy, right? They're blue, they're depressed, whatever you want to call it. It is interesting that those people typically have a hard time making decisions. They
yeah.
go into this vacillation, and so now that made that connection for me, how those two things can be highly interdependent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I've had many clients tell me now that I'm better nourished, I can handle my life better, that things don't
Mm.
bother me as much. And I rise to the challenge by solving the problem instead of just sitting there and just rocking back and forth in a panic, not knowing, just being paralyzed with fear kind of thing. So, yeah, that really helps quite a bit. And of course, you've got the gland and endocrine system going on. So your glands are producing hormones in response to everything that's going on in the body. If you're scared, if you're angry, and if it's on a regular basis, then you're going to have these hormones that cause these cascades of inflammatory reactions that are very damaging to the body. They can damage the DNA. They can cause diseases. They can cause all kinds of problems. And then also, you've got to regulate the glands that monitor your sleep-wake cycles. Without sleep, you cannot function. You can't make good life decisions. You're always exhausted. You're always emotional. You're always worried and overreacting, right? Instead of solving problems. So that's a very important thing to have as well. And of course, your immune system. It's going to try to attenuate all those inflammatory proteins your body's producing. So many toxic conditions, whether it's a pollutant or if it's a emotional reaction. So all of this is protecting the DNA code, and that's our operating instructions. We've got to, above all else, nourish the body so that our DNA can stay intelligent and functioning because that gives the directions. It's the central processor, to the whole body.
Mm. Yeah, that is very, very interesting. So, a lot of times, people here at our wellness studio, they start taking the drops, and of course, some people, there are certain drops that someone notices something immediately, right? We love that when that happens, right? Oh my gosh, my nose cleared up, or my stomach ache went away, or my joint stopped hurting. Uh, Sometimes with a kit like Happy, it may not be as obvious to some people, but and we know everybody is different, right? But what are some of the things that, you know, people taking this kit, if they're using it consistently, what are some of the things that they might notice both, day by day, but also longer term? And you may have answered some of those things already, but I think it's important to kind of point them out because it can be challenging sometimes. Clients have been sick for so long or deficient for so long, and they expect a miracle to happen, in 2 days.
Yeah, yeah. People are so used to the immediate effects of drugs, which aren't nutrients. They stop and hide, what's really going on under the surface.
Yeah.
They have a whole different purpose. But nutrients, they'll go in and they'll start repairing and straightening things out at the microcell level. They'll, repair whatever damage in the DNA so that those instructions can be remedied too. So um, that's what they're going to notice, that they're just better able to handle stressful events much more calmly and rationally. All these attenuating actions of these nutrient factors that are going on. So they're going to prevent a lot of those stress reactions, a lot of those inflammatory proteins, a lot of those toxic chemicals the body produces under stress. So they're going to be doing their job of repairing the damage and attenuating and calming the system down. Because when you have too much excitability like that, then it's going to interfere with the healing process. So that's one thing that people notice. And then they're going to say that they can remember things now. They're starting to remember things better. When they're learning something new, their retention is better, and they're just more efficient at processing any kind of information. What does this information mean? What is it going to do? And how can I use it? How is it going to be applied? So they extend their thinking beyond just the simple reaction to something. And so they're going to feel more physical and mental energy, because you're clearing out all the cobwebs. You're clearing out all those synthetic pollutants out of the body. And you're going to have hormones that are going to be allowed, or they can be the system for producing a hormone that gives you elevated moods. It's a very delicate system, step-by-step system. And if at any time these pollutants interfere with that, then you're not going to reach that conclusion, right? That task. And so restoring all these previous disruptions of the same body system is what's really going on. Meanwhile, they're feeling so much better. They have more mental energy. It's not just physical energy that they're experiencing, but they can think longer. They can learn, and study and focus on something a much longer period without feeling overwhelmed or getting a headache or whatever their body does when they try to do something that's prolonged like that.
Mm. This is completely just a random, question, comment, then a question to you. Here at our center, we do, especially when someone invests in a kit, because it's a substantial investment, right? We do heart rate variability testing on them so that we can get their brain harmonization level, their sympathetic to parasympathetic balance, their catabolic energy state, as well as their sleep patterns. We can see, the wave pattern of their brain. But I also like to give them a little journal page for them to print out and monitor, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being this, 1 being that, so that they're literally, because what happens, I don't know if you could experience this, and there's a lot of people on this call, of course, that don't have heart rate variability testing that they can do after 30 or 60 days on a product. I think it's important to get people to start monitoring, even if it's just, objective, right? A subjective, excuse me, not objective, but subjective,
Mhm.
and scoring themselves on things like your energy, your cognition, your sleep, your stress levels. Do you do anything like that with your clients so that they can validate the proof of kind of monitoring that?
Well, I retired my practice 15 years ago, but I still help people. If people want help, I still do. Um, and I have the institute, so my members get the benefit of getting their questions answered, the minute they ask. But it's important to be able to understand your body so that you can monitor yourself. I mean, your body, when you're upset, when you're calm, kind of thing. So monitoring the reactions of everything you're putting into it, people should start paying attention to that. If they're eating, very heavy, fried foods, or something that your body has a real problem with, that are very actually dangerous for your body, then they're going to feel a certain way, right? They're going to have all kinds of stomach upsets. They're going to have a headache. Their blood pressure is going to go up. They're going to feel fatigued. They're going to feel nauseated and sick. They reach for the wrong kinds of remedies. So, I mean, if you have someone who's that way, and then they start gradually changing their diet and just taking care of themselves properly, then eventually they will start seeing the benefits, and then they can do a comparison, especially if someone like your center is monitoring the before and after. That's why I like people to go back to their physicians and have more laboratory tests done so that they can confirm the before and afters, right? All of these lab results. And so, yeah, there's many ways to do that. And of course, there's always biofeedback. I mean, there's other modalities out there that are helpful as well. But it's good to know, definite before and afters.
Yeah. Good. So we've got a newbie. We've convinced them that investing in a happy kit is a wise investment in their health. And I love kits in general, right? Because a single drop, that's great, but most people are very malnourished, even if they think that they're not.
Right. Yeah.
You've got 5 different products in this kit. If I just purchased a happy kit from you, how do you suggest I use it? Is there any guidelines that you say, hey, because like I like taking HEPAR at night before I go to bed, but that's just I muscle test myself when to take mine, but that's outside of many people's boxes. They just want to know, how exactly do I do this? When should I take
Right.
this, right? They don't like oh, go with your intuition. They go, I don't have any intuition.
Well, I just, we're trying to get people out of that medical mindset, right? Take two in the morning and don't overdose. And these are the terrible side effects. No, nutrients will never do that, especially these. These are exactly what our body's designed to utilize to the maximum. Okay, so, I mean, if we were to just split them up throughout the day, then I would say happy and brain during the day, because they're very stimulating, and they help you focus, and they help you improve your moods. And then the others, the HEPR, the MLS, and RLX, they focus a lot on just restoring and recovering and regenerating. And your body does its best work when you're sleeping. So that's how I would do it. There's no reason why you couldn't have one or mix them up. But that's just something that I picked out at random. I mean, the HEPR and MLS, your body will detoxify and do all the things it needs to do while you're awake. It won't be as efficient though, because it'll be busy doing other things as you respond to your environment. And the
Mm.
RLX, it can either put you to sleep if you're exhausted already, if your body's in dire need of repair, or you can use it to just calm you down for the next stressful meeting with your boss, whatever. So yeah, you can mix them up. And as long as you know, like based from what we talked about today and based on the chart that I provided, and also the APLGO book, if you want to really get deep into what these botanicals do in these drops, then you'll be able to decipher for yourself what your body needs the most.
Mm. Yeah. And you know what I tell people all the time, of course, I'll say to them, well, what I do, right? Just because, again, some people, they have such a white coat mentality. They want the exact instructions. But what I find is that when I tell people, look, use this as your treat, throughout the day, I know for me, not that I had a terrible sweet tooth before, but I liked my dark chocolate, and I find that I don't consume, you know, the drops literally kind of take care of my sweet tooth, and yet they're
Yeah,
healthy.
yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
have some shockingly fun tidbits when we get a chance.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I love shocking tidbits.
Yeah, I just love these statistics. So when we have a nourished and functioning, normally functioning body, and it's able to perform all of these unimaginably, high number of cellular actions every day. So these are the exponential numbers that people have discovered about the body. And these are estimations, of course. So it's estimated that we have 30 billion, that's 3 to the 10 to the 19th power, from 30 billion to 300 billion chemical reactions per second going on in the body all the
Oh,
time. And the body replaces approximately 330 billion cells daily. And that's only 1% of all the cells in the body. So it's constantly replacing different cells in different system. Meanwhile, the other cells are busy at work, right? So
mm,
most of the turnover involves 86% blood cells. Those are extremely important cells. 14% of cells lining the gut. Again, we have to break down and absorb nutrients and utilize those nutrients. So the turnover rate on those two systems are extremely high. The rest of it is just going on in the other areas of the body. So the majority of our over 30 trillion cells in the body are replaced every 80 to 100 days. So if you don't notice immediate results, know that your body is busy at work repairing things at the micro level, and pretty soon you'll feel it at the macro level. So, and if you slip and start eating unhealthfully again, you let your health go, just know that it'll take you that long to turn it back around and really feel optimally much better, after that period of time. So that's how fast our body has to work to make sure that you're healthy, and to keep you from aging too quickly and degenerating too quickly, right? So yeah, we've got to be completely and properly nourished every day. not every other day, not once a week, not once a month. It's to meet this high energy demand to maintain all of these cells. So it has to be a precise balance between cell death, normal cell death. Old cells get old; they need to be replenished, replaced, and to ensure equal amounts of replenishment, new cell production going on. So there has to be that equal balance. If you're sick, if you're not taking good care of yourself, you're going to have more degeneration of your cells before it can be replaced with healthy cells. So if you don't have any nutrients in your body that you're putting into your body, then you're going to go downhill very, very quickly. I think people kind of understand that, once they've seen this information.
Mary Esther, that statistic that you just gave, I want to stop and I just want you to repeat that because if you think about what you just said about the replacement of the cells and the time frame that takes between 80 and 100 days, that statistic alone should be used to talk to every customer about the reason behind not trying a product for less than 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Minimum.
they have to cut out the junk. It's running interference very seriously. They have to switch to a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle. Otherwise, the drops are, going 3 steps forward, and their unhealthy lifestyle is taking them, a couple steps backward. And they're not gaining as fast as they should. And so you want to give your body every single chance it possibly can. And these drops, they just propel you into better health. If you're doing everything else right, and you take these drops, you are going to look 20 years younger before too long. Maybe not in 100 days, a couple of years. If someone hasn't seen you in 2 or 3 or 4 years, they're going to be shocked. They won't recognize you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, your body will start behaving more youthfully because the cells will be behaving more youthfully. They'll be highly nourished. They'll be producing energy at a faster rate. The cell turnover rate will be on par. 86% blood cells and 14% of cells lining the gut. That is a lot of the cell turnover rate, and your body needs that energy, those nutrients, in order to produce that energy to get this done.
Yeah, and blood's the carrier of everything, right? And
Yes,
the
it is.
gut is the really the brain of the body with the microbiome. So that is fascinating. And
I thought so.
yeah. Any other tidbits there?
Well, we can do the sales takeaway summary, and then I
Well,
can
before
introduce
we
the
do
book.
that, I just want your opinion on something.
Sure.
Again, totally, off subject, but it came up today. Uh, the shocking number of youth today that report 34% of youth report dark, depressive thoughts on a daily basis. And everyone on this call probably know, okay, the toxic load, in their age group, they grew up on junk food, Starbucks, the cell phone in their head all the time, the Bluetooth, we could go on and on and on.
Hmm.
But as it relates to helping support the future of America, a future of other countries, which is our youth, um, your opinion on how to expose the youth to these products, especially because some of them say, well, I don't have the money, right? I'm a kid in college, or I'm a brand new employee that is just living out of mom's basement making ends meet. What are your thoughts on that? Because that was a shocking statistic to me, Mary Esther.
There's so many factors that contribute to that. Some of them we can't discuss here. We can have a private meeting, and I can fill you in on some of the things that I've been researching and experiencing in my own practice. My clients would come in and they would have an array of health issues. I would tell them, bring in all of your medications so that we can look up the side effects to see if any of your issues are because of the side effects, or and also bring in all of your supplements you're taking. And I would go ingredient by ingredient and showing them, whether something is worth taking or not, or if something was causing more problems than helping,
Mm,
that kind of thing. And so
mhm.
I would just start with that and educate them that way. And then, I think that we adults it's our responsibility to be the best example to the younger set, the younger generation. When you, I used to get invited to speak, like in high schools and stuff like that. I used to speak to young people. And when I went in, they would say, wow, she looks good. How old is she? And to me, to them, a 40-year-old was really old. But when you go in there and you're vibrantly healthy and you're speaking to young people and even to your own kids, sometimes, mom doesn't know anything. But when they get older, to be older teenagers, they start, wow, mom's smarter than I thought, a lot smarter than I thought. So, they go through this phase. But if you talk to strangers, then they're going to see you as an expert, right? Or somebody to listen to, especially if you have that healthy presence. And that's what makes the huge difference. So to be an example to your family, your friends, you don't even have to go around lecturing to people. Just your very high energy presence is going to impress them in subconscious ways that they don't even know. But something you say might plant a seed. Planting seeds is the best thing you can do, especially if it's your own kids. So a little bit of seeds, a little bit of information here and there, eventually they start getting the idea, and they start responding and they start acting more responsibly toward their health. And they have their own experience too with something that doesn't work or something that they're disappointed in because they tried something. So getting them away from the substances, the alcohol, and whatever recreational drugs they happen to be exposed to, getting them away from that is our responsibility. Keep an eye on your teenagers, hound them down. And if they scream and yell and it's just too bad. This is for your own good. And you're acting responsibly. You're smarter than that. This is wrong. Those kinds of things. We have to just get in there and stop it. And also boycotting anything that is damaging to the body and making that a household, expression. It's like, oh no, I'm not putting that in your body. What kind of parent am I if it's going to affect you like this? No. If you want to do this somewhere else when you're older and you're more aware of what's going on in the world, and when you develop more brain neurons and you're able to think more logically. I mean, there's a lot of things that we parents have to, it's painful and it's a hassle, but we have to set them straight because they'll remember it later, right? When they get just a little bit older, they'll start realizing, okay, yeah, I'm not going to stay this way forever. They start feeling like, they're getting older and their health isn't as much as what they would like. And so, you point out the reasons why it'll just make an impression eventually. But yeah,
Be a
there's a lot.
product. Be a product of your product, right? And
Yeah.
I like to say it's that for those of you that are old enough to remember When Harry Met Sally. I love that scene in the movie where they're in the restaurant and she has this incredible scene of kind of screaming and
Oh yeah.
the woman says to the waitress, I'll have what
I'll
she's
have
having.
what she's having. Right.
And that's true, right? I'll have, if
Yeah.
that's what people, when you're vibrant and you're healthy and people say, no, you are not X years old, what do you do? They want to know the secret. Now, they may not be
Yeah.
willing to, quote unquote, pay the price either financially or with the discipline, but people take notice of people that are healthy, and it is the best magnet. So,
It is. I mean, okay, when somebody says that to you, what I like to say is, well, I practice what I teach. Oh, really? What do you teach? What is, they want to know. They're desperate to know, right? And then
mm,
they don't always like the answer. Years and years of hard work and lots of building up your knowledge about how your body works and being dedicated to, taking care of your physical needs, your exercise, and all of that. Balancing your hormones, and it just goes on and on. So I try to just make it a short something, not too long, because it starts freaking them out. It's like too overwhelming for them,
yeah.
right? And then they go try something that sounds a lot more simple.
You're so much nicer than me, Mary Esther, because when people say to me, you are not 61, you don't look 61, I say, actually, I do look 61. It's the rest of the world that looks like crap. And some
That's
people
right.
laugh and some people don't, but I like your response better. I practice what I teach because instead of someone being mad at you for saying that, if they're interested, they're going to say, well, what do you teach? So Thank you for
Yeah,
that additional little tidbit. So,
I
well,
like I like your tidbit too. I like yours a lot too.
it's a little bit in
You
your
know.
face, but that's my personality.
Oh
So,
no, that's good. I mean, if I'm not in a professional setting, then yeah, I've said stuff like that too.
so why
See,
don't
you have
you
to.
give us the wrap up and then we can open it up to a couple of questions before we close the call.
Okay, I see Ruth raised her hand. So let's do the sales takeaway summary. I'll describe the book really quick on how people can get the book.
Please do.
So you can do your own. Once you peruse the video on this or you produce this PDF, then you can actually wrap up your own sales takeaway summary, and it can change according to who your customers are, right? But this generally is what we talked about. The Happy Kit's designed to counter and help protect against all the different factors that run interference with a person's normal and balanced biochemistry. And the formulations in the Happy Kit are not redundant because of the infinitely varied, extensive synergistic actions. The vast range of nutrient factors perform in our over 30 trillion cells, 24 hours a day, or I should say second by second. And then the Happy Kit botanical nutrient factors focus on nourishing and aiding the brain nerve, endocrine, glandular, hormonal, and immune systems that together work against stress to bring the body back to biochemical balance, equilibrium, or homeostasis. Those are kind of redundant terms, but I like to use all three. The botanical phytonutrients help improve calmer stress responses, improved cognition, problem solving, and mind clarity. And the plant phytochemicals help elevate moods, feelings of well-being, improve rest, sleep quality, and immune responses that protect the quality of our DNA and therefore overall system functioning. I know those are long-winded, and you probably wouldn't have time to say all of that to one customer because that's a lot of information. But it's really difficult to summarize everything. You can respond to their needs and kind of abbreviate that. I'm sure you all know that. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah. And as we've been learning over the past year, sometimes it's just easier to say, would you like to feel better? Would you like to have more life,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Ruth, question.
Been doing a lot of research, and because one of the gals on my team is quite a few of them are holistic practitioners, and I've been into PEMF for many years. Casey, you probably know that, and Mary Esther knows that. Mary Esther, I wanted to get your take on a PEMF device used in conjunction with the lozenges and the benefits of the cellular uptake, the bioavailability, just overall support of those lozenges. Do you think there's a good synergy there in that?
Yeah. We're talking about all kinds of magnetic fields around us and the ones that permeate through and inside of our bodies. And some of them are going to be very, very compatible with the biophotons, in our living cells versus the plant living cells, right? So absolutely, it's going to help. Absolutely is.
Yeah.
So see,
And
now I
Ruth,
can take it for gospel.
well, and Ruth,
No,
I can't help but make a comment here. I know it's Mary Esther Gilbert's call, and you know that's one of the we have six of them here in every chair. 74% of the body circulatory system are microvessels.
Yep.
And it is only in those microvessels that the nutrients and the
Yep.
oxygen are delivered and the metabolic waste and toxic carbon dioxide are removed. So without proper blood flow, which good PMF devices will support, you put the drops on steroids, so to speak. I mean that figuratively, not literally, when you're using that in conjunction, in my opinion.
Well, let me just give a testimony. Most of you know I got hit by a U-Haul truck in 2015 and I couldn't walk at all. And most of you know that story. So my right knee has been carrying my left knee. My right knee and hip have just been carrying me for 10 years. And about 7 weeks ago now, I turned wrong on my right knee, and I do believe I tore the meniscus. I mean, it was instantaneous, couldn't stand pain. I had no lateral, it was horrible.
Mm.
Nursed it, went to the doctor. He just said, you need a knee replacement. He wouldn't even do an MRI. I said, well, an X-ray isn't going to show soft tissue damage. He goes, it doesn't matter. You have really bad osteoarthritis. I can tell that knee's just blah, 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 the thing. So I left. And of course, I started on our lozenges immediately and some other modalities. And then I got to talking with one of my team members, and she is really, really into PEMF. And I've been into PEMF for a long time. I was part of a company back in the 90s that was a frontiersman on PEMF, and different frequencies for different parts of the bodies. Different frequencies heal with different parts of the bodies, which most people don't know. And so I started using my PEMF device that, in conjunction, when I had my lozenges, I was turning on the PEMF device for specifically osteoarthritis. And my knee is much more stable, much faster than my left knee became stable with just the lozenges. I'm just dumbfounded. So that's what made me do the deep dive. And then I went, of course, Mary Esther, I had to ask that question because you are the holy grail of that.
Oh, brother. I'm constantly learning, and I'm glad you brought this up because now people are contacting me and letting me know of the different energy frequency modalities that they're using, and their patients, their clients are getting healed left and right. And of course, with Fritz Albert Popp, as my foundation and knowing what he's done at the energetic frequency level, I always knew that, it needs to be a part of our medical and wellness system. So I don't know if you all know that, I don't know if I said this on my website, but I've been a reconnected healing energy healer for a number of years. I was always searching for my martial arts instructor's, he always lets me tell the story, his encephalitis. And so he couldn't, when he got bitten by a vector, a mosquito that was infected, then it affected his brain. He couldn't drive very long. He had these attacks, his nervous system was just failing him. So when he heard about the work that I do, one of his students, he and his wife became clients of mine. So I tried everything I could to restore his nervous system, to help his brain rewire. And I had the remedies, and I knew the tried and true science, but he did not like the remedies. He would not take them. So, the universe said, okay, I'm going to send you to this webinar. I got some tickets and I said, we're going to this healer webinar. He does energy healing work. And so he's been studied by Arizona State University. There's a lot of scientific research behind what this particular healer has done, which began in the early 2000s. So we applied, we went to seminars and we applied the techniques, and he got well. He even had a stroke. And he walked into the dojo one day, and he came up to me and he said, don't say anything, but I have a stroke. I've had a stroke, and I can't move my right arm. So he said, I need you to take over the classes. So here I was, upset that he was in this condition, but I had to finish all the rest of the evening, all the different classes. And finally, I was able to later on. I said, okay, I'm going to come over and we'll work on you. So his wife says, yes, please, So we walked in and we fixed him. All I did was apply the energies, and I left. And the next morning he calls me, he says, I don't have a stroke anymore. I can move my arm. I can move my face. His face had dropped. I mean, the energy frequencies that we have to work with, whether it's coming from our own body system or, the wonderful technologies that are out there, are actually proven to work. And it sounds freakish, I know. I could not believe that I actually did something like that. I never thought I would. I think the human body, we are all capable of healing each other and ourselves. We just have been, this kind of information has been hidden from us. Don't get me started on that. But yeah.
Nikola Tesla started it. So let's finish up on time here tonight. Mary Esther, why don't you tell us how anyone that might not have your book can get that, because it is a must.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so here's the link, holisticchoices.com/APL. That's the APLGO Associates
Blow that up
page.
a little bit, Mary Esther, so people could really maybe take a screenshot of that.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
So you can go there and order the book. I'll take you there myself so you can see. This will be on the PDF document, and the link will be live there. So you can always go there. And here's the APLGO page. I post all of the PDFs we've done since going back to 2023 when I was first asked to do this. So these are all the PDFs. And the this little blue purple section, you can see that you can order the book online. It'll go to the, the shopping cart, and or you can immediately download the ebook digital PDF version of it right here. So
Which
it
I
comes in
love because I can do
pages.
a quick search.
Yes, that's what I love about it too. So yeah, I mean, I separated all the 2026 stuff down here. So these are the ones that we've done so far. So, these are always being posted right away after our calls. And then when the video comes out a couple days later, I always post the videos here too, and it's on the YouTube channel as well.
Fantastic.
Just one more quick question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but this is really important.
Of course.
The difference between sound therapy that is digitalized and sound therapy that is true sound. Do you have an opinion on that? And maybe you don't have to answer now, but maybe post it somewhere, because I'm doing a deep dive on that too, and I'm getting into arguments with people on that digitalized music because
And before you answer that, Mary Esther Gilbert, let me just end the recording since that's
Yes.
completely off topic.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you
everybody.
so much for participating in this evening's Beyond the Science with Mary Esther Gilbert on the Happy Kit. So just